Hello and welcome to the Story Behind the Stories, your weekly look at the pages of the Neepawa Banner Press. Thank you for taking a little bit of your time and spending it once again with me. I'm Eoin Devereux, apparently star of the soon-to-be retitled Eoin Devereux Show right here on NAC TV. That's what happens when you have a few people with commitments, a few other people on vacation. I don't go anywhere and I don't do anything, so you're stuck with me. I am sure, though, in the near future that we will have another individual on here on the show to give you a little bit of break of listening to me talk for a half hour straight. But fortunately, this is one of those weeks where I've got something worth talking about in terms of what's on the pages and in terms of what happens behind the scenes at the Neepawa Banner Press. Let's start off, as always, with the very front page. This week, as you can see, we have a concert that recently took place at the Roxy Theatre here in Neepawa. Some Manitoba pure country popped into the Roxy Theatre. Several different artists, Patrick, Jason Kirkness, and Jerry Sereda. I got to admit, I'm not huge in the country myself, so I don't know much about these artists, about these individuals. But from what I read from the story and learned a little bit about in terms of who these individuals are, very professional, very good, multiple bands. And for bands of this magnitude becoming the Neepawa as part of their tour, that's a real feather in the cap. Now, it's called the Turn the Night Up Tour, and it is taking place throughout the prairies right now. The day before it came to Neepawa on the 28th of October, it was actually in Brandon. So that's a big deal for us to be getting similar style concerts here in our little community compared to what they're getting in the big city. Destiny Mackey was the one who was there and covered that, had a bunch of pictures and a write-up on that. Now, on front page, you can see it. And as well, some more pictures that you can find on page A10 of this week's edition of the paper. It is, once again, a two-section paper. We're going to get to the other section, the other information, a little later on in the show, but just wanted to start that off with the front page, as you probably should when you're talking about a newspaper. Front page is usually where the stuff is that you want to care about. So you can check that out on page A1 and on page A10. Inside the paper, there's so many other things that are on the go. The first and foremost one I want to show you, because I did this work, and quite honestly, it was so time-consuming. But that's what you do every 4 years, is the election details. As you can see, clear as day on page A3, the election details and the first picture of the new council for the town of Neepawa. They had their meeting on Tuesday there, their first official meeting. There wasn't a lot done for the most part. It's just sort of everyone getting acclimated to their new positions and learning some of the details. Some of the other information from the election you can find on page A9 of this week's paper. Again, it was one of those things we wanted to very clearly and concisely show you all the individuals who were elected throughout our readership area and just show you exactly who got elected and who didn't and their vote counts. Now this was, I got to admit, this was a heck of a time-consuming thing. Just when it comes down to it, a newspaper is a lot of moving parts, and some of those moving parts include the advertising section of it. So we build our papers to a certain size to meet the advertising. Usually about a 40% is what you want to see. If you see 40% ads in a newspaper, that is a healthy newspaper. If you see on every page, if you only see maybe 10% of the page is for ads, that's a paper on the down. That's a paper that's close to dying. That's the Brandon Sun. Oh, did I say that? I didn't mean to say that. Pardon me. But that's what it is. Whenever you look at a page, look at how many ads are on it. And if it's maybe about 50-50 ads, that's a healthy paper. That's a paper thriving in today's market. And with that, when you're building to the 50%, you don't know exactly how many pages you're going to have until all the ads are looked after. So We didn't know whether this was going to be a 16-piece section, whether it was going to be a 20-page section, or whether it was going to be a 24-page until late Tuesday. And then we found out, all right, we've got about just under 10 pages worth of ads that can go in this edition of the Banner and Press for the Yay section. So we can go a healthy 20. So that 50-50 balance, a little bit of the behind the scenes for you and what goes into putting together a paper. But having said that, now we know it's 50%. We have several pages that are committed to certain things. Helen's Recipe, Rural Outlook. This time of year, a couple pages committed to sports. And of course, the classified section. Oh my God, this week's classified section was huge. Usually we can get it done in about 3 pages. This week it was about 5 pages. So some pages that are normally committed to news were not available for news content this week. So then you've got to do a little bit of balancing, a little bit of juggling. If you're familiar with the old Nintendo game Tetris, it turns into that type of thing where you're trying to fit things into certain places and certain spaces. So we almost had to cut it in half in terms of the space it took up. It still would have worked, but maybe it would have been smaller. The type would have been smaller. The visuals would have been smaller. It wouldn't have been as clean and as precise, in my opinion. And again, since I put so much time and effort into this, I wanted to make sure it got as much exposure as possible, especially when it comes to something like this. This is only once every 4 years, and this is important. This level of politics is the most directly impactful for you and for me on a daily basis. These are the people who make the decisions that affect our lives each and every day. Now, sure, federal government gets all the exposure, all the glory, as it were, and to a lesser degree, provincial is very important. They make the big decisions about the big items in town, but the things that affect you directly, like roads and infrastructure and all those little knickknacks that go into making a community, they happen on the municipal level, and these are the people that make those decisions. So I do hope that you will go through. We did spend a lot of time, or I should say, I spent a fair amount of time on election night chasing down this information, updating it on our website, mywestman.ca, as soon as it came in. Last time I looked in the back end of the website, it showed that there had been just over 2,000 individual hits of computers and individuals looking up that information. That's part of the demographics. We can see how many times a certain story has been looked at, and it was just over 2,000, maybe 2,050 or something like that. And for a small community paper like this, anything over about 1,500 is very good. Like the biggest story we ever had on ours, I believe it was either the police chase that occurred in Neepawa, or it was the standoff in Neepawa. Both of those were in around over 15,000 individual hits on those stories online. Huge numbers for a community our size. So that's just, I'm showing you a little bit of the behind the scenes. So for 2,000, that's great. That's fantastic, because we wanted to get that information out to you as quickly as possible. Last week's edition of the paper, as if you're a consistent watcher of this show, you know, we went to print before the election results were official. So there was this mad scramble. I had to make up a center spread page, and then we inserted it manually into the paper so that you knew who won in Neepawa. And now this week, you know not only who won in Neepawa, but in all the other outlying communities that we do cover, because we do try to be a regional paper. We try the best we can to sort of hit every different community in that manner. So again, as I said, Westlake Gladstone was a huge race, very competitive race. The RM of Rosedale as well, municipality of North Cyprus Langford, we have that information in here, as well as the town of Carberry and the municipality of Glenella Lansdowne. Now you might be wondering, there's 2 in there that we covered that weren't in there. the town of Minnedosa and the Arm of Minto O'Donnell. And the reason is because all those races were claimed earlier. So we had that in a previous edition of the paper, all the names, all the information there. And again, like I said, we just didn't have the room to be able to do it. That's the challenge from time to time of a newspaper. And it's a challenge for us as well, because unlike some daily papers and unlike some big city papers, we do everything here. It's not just a case of, well, you write the story and then you hand it off to somebody else who does all the editing. And then you hand it off to somebody else who puts it on the page. No, we're the ones that do all that here. So it's a challenge, but it's a good challenge. And it's frustrating at times. I'm not going to lie to you. Sometimes it's very frustrating. You're dealing with time constraints, and you're dealing with doing these little bitty technical jobs that just are so time consuming. When you want to be chasing down story leads, when you want to be chasing down other information. Like, little tangent here, off topic. It's not a story we have in this week's paper, and I'm not going to go into specifics because I don't have confirmation yet. There's a couple incidents that have occurred. One that apparently happened in a local establishment here in Neepawa, a domestic type incident that may or may not have happened involving violence. We can't talk about that for the most part because we don't know for sure. We haven't been able to track down the confirmation information, and part of that is just not having the time. Another incident about an individual in the rural area that is apparently, allegedly, going into other properties, looking around, taking stuff, has taken stuff, significant items, and there's not much being done about that right now. We would love to be able to share that with you. There was a gentleman that came in to the newspaper during the week who gave us one of the tips. And we took down the information. We took it down, and he was frustrated. Obviously, I mean, if he's got a portion of land out in the area and there's an individual coming out there and saying, hey, you know, taking some stuff or trying to take stuff and nothing's being done about it, allegedly, then yeah, that can be frustrating. And again, the gentleman, I wouldn't fault him for being frustrated, but he took out a bit of that frustration on me and told me, do your job. We're trying. We try to do our job. We do it the best we can for a small town paper, but we do need your help. And again, that's every week I ask you for your tips. And this was a case of that, the gentleman coming in and giving us this tip. And we do want to be able to share each and every story we get, but sometimes we can't because we don't have the confirmation. We don't have the established details. Nobody wants to talk to us about it. And we could roll with it. We could put it in the paper with what we know, but all we know right now is hearsay and innuendo. And if you want hearsay and innuendo and false facts, go on the internet. Go onto Facebook. Go to your local coffee shop. That's where all the innuendo and hearsay is. I would love to be able to share the details with you, but I can't because I can't confirm it right now. That's the truth. That's the way it is. And again, like I said, I went off on a little tangent here about what's not in the pages of the Neepawa Banner Press, but that's the story behind the stories and the story behind the non-stories of our paper. So that's the unfortunate reality, and we're trying to get this information to you. So hopefully you'll sort of stick with us on this, because we do want to be able to share that information with you when we can confirm it. So that was quite a left turn from the municipal elections that recently took place, but if you'd like to find those details, pardon me, as I said, you can find it on mywestman.ca or on page A3 and A9 of our A section. So other things we got on the go, we got a few letters, we got a thumbs up, thumbs down. We always appreciate that. Some of our regulars submissions were great this week. We got a submission on the Bernie Community Center and the nursery school, getting the new front door there. Like these types of little community things, we love to be able to get. We can't get out to everything, and we don't have the time for everything, unfortunately. So when you send us that information, that is helpful because we want to share your good news. We want to share your bad news if you want to share it with us. We want to be able to talk about the things that are going on in each and every community we cover. And the fact that this was sent to us was so greatly appreciated. We thank you, and we're very happy to be able to share that with you this week. Ken Waddell also has a story about a new business essentially in town, Neepawa Self-Storage, adding to the town's capacity for storage. So he has a write-up on that. Very happy to be able to see new business continuing to come in and thrive, hopefully, for the long term in Neepawa. Other items, we've got several pictures, local businesses in Minnedosa that took part in Halloween celebrations, businesses in Neepawa that took part in the Halloween celebrations. So very great to be able to see some of that stuff happening this time of year. All right, now, since I'm on the show this week, and since I had to cover all the sports-related stuff for the most part, we're going to be spending the next few minutes talking about a little bit of sports. Don't worry, we're going to get the other stuff soon enough. Just want to put a shout out, though, to the Neepawa Tigers hockey team and the Neepawa Tigers football team. They both had games recently. The Tigers hosted their annual Slasher Showdown. This is the first time in a couple years they've been able to do it as they used to do it before the COVID-19 pandemic struck. Just 6 teams in from all over the province. It was a great Thursday and Friday. Was able to go out and see a couple games. The Tigers were able to get an opportunity to get out there, get their legs under them as they go into the regular season. So you can find that on the sports page. They did a tremendous job, and the volunteers, coaches, and parents that helped out with getting it organized did an amazing job with that. So take a minute or two and just check that out in the sports section. Also want to give a shout out to the Neepawa Tigers, who had the semifinal for the Murray Black Cup over the weekend in Neepawa, or here in Neepawa. They were the number 1 seed for that. It's the consolation, essentially. Doug Steve's trophy is for 1st through 4th, and 5th through 6th is the Murray Black. Neepawa finished in a tie for 4th, but they lost the tiebreaker, so they ended up in the Murray Black Cup. But they did a tremendous job defeating Park West on October 29th. One of our salespeople, Joel, actually covered the event for me. I was not here in Neepawa at the time. I had a prior commitment in Brandon that I had to attend to. Some things that needed to be looked after. And Joel will be helping me out again. Next week's edition of the paper, well, I'm sure, will have pictures from the Murray Black Cup, which will be happening here in Neepawa. But I have commitments in Winnipeg, so I will be away again. But Joel has graciously said that he'll step up, get a few pictures, and get the information. So we will still have that information. But again, if you're a parent, if you're connected with the team in any way, shape, or form, don't think that you can't send us information. Send it to me via email at sports@neepawabanner.com. Any and all help is appreciated. Like I say, we try the best we can. Sometimes we can't get to your event. Sometimes we're just not able to, and we do apologize for that. But if you're able to help us out in any way, shape, or form, we do our best, our very best, to be able to get that information that you give to us out to you, the masses. So, other information as well, like the Farmers had their home opener for senior hockey. The Yellowhead Chiefs, because we have so many Neepawa people who are participating in the program, we try and cover that each and every week. And the Neepawa Titans, they only had 1 game. It was on the road, but you can find those stats in the sports section of this week's paper. All right, so for the most part, it's 20 pages this week, the A section. It's a little lighter than usual in terms of quote-unquote hard news, but that's because this week, very fortunately, Casper Werhan, who is on vacation right now, and a much-deserved vacation right now, put in the time, the energy, and the effort to put together, which, in my estimation, is the best Remembrance Day section we have had in maybe about half a decade. Like, I am very proud to be able to share this with you this week. I wish I could take some of the glory from this, but the work that was put in by Casper, along with Diane Warner and Joel and John for sales on that. The amount of time and effort and commitment that they put into this, they need to be very much singled out. I'll be honest with you, I didn't touch this at all. I got nothing to do with this, but I'm the one sitting here talking to you about it, and I'm very proud to be able to talk to you about it because it was so well done. This time, a couple months ago, for certain features like Remembrance Day, these are things that are started a month, maybe 2 months in advance. And a couple months ago, we were just talking and we didn't know what type of angle to take with the Remembrance Day section. There's only so many different varieties of stories you can tell before you start repeating yourself. And each and every year we do the best we can to sort of share details, local details. And that's the thing as well. Perhaps in a community such as Winnipeg or Brandon, there's more widespread stories where you're able to tell. But in a smaller community like Neepawa, especially with a genre such as Remembrance Day, there's only so many stories left to tell that haven't been told already. So we were wondering, what the heck are we going to talk about? Haven't we talked about it all? But no, fortunately, you came in. The general public came in with your ideas, with your suggestions. Chris Waddell as well had a great suggestion for us on this. And that sort of sparked the concept of focusing on the genre of women in the war years. And Casper just did an amazing job. Every story in there is from Casper. And the thing is, as well, on this, there's stories we weren't even able to fit in there. It's 8 pages, and it is crammed with information and details of all these different things. And there's 1 or 2 stories we weren't able to get to. Like again, here you see on page 2, this story here, telling about the lifetime and the achievements of this individual, Margaret Brees, and her commitment that she gave during the wartime, and so many other women from around the area. This individual, Ms. Brees, was born right here in Neepawa, and when it came time to step up and to assist, as everyone did at that time, she was one of the ones that made the call, stepped up and took that call. So we're very happy to be able to share some of the pictures, some of the history, some of the stories of this woman who is unfortunately no longer with us, passed away in 1997. But that's why some sections like this are so important, to be able to keep those memories, keep those individuals alive, and to keep the commitment that they gave in a time of need, to keep it in the hearts and minds of those as we go into Remembrance Day. As well, on the other pages, pictures, cut lines about father-daughter groups involved in the Army. The first, let me see here, CWAC Provosts posted at Camp Shiloh. These are types of things I had no idea about at all until Casper shared that information with us. And this is one, this was in the Brandon Sun a few years ago. They did a version of it. This version, though, is written all by Casper. It's new information for us. We sat down with the individuals and the family members and all that. The Curtis family, a child of theirs rescued during World War II. If you don't spend any time on any other story in either section this week, but you read this one, I'd be okay with it. I genuinely would be okay with it. This is one of those ones we've got to frame, put up on a wall. I think we need to be extremely proud of what Casper did with this story. This is the one. If there is any other one, you take the time and you read this one. I could not do it justice right now to try and explain it to you. The story of heroism, commitment, love, passion, dedication. Wow. It hits all those marks so well. Very proud to be able to say that this is in the pages of the Neepawa Banner Press. We don't always hit a home run. Sometimes we get things wrong. Most definitely, sometimes I definitely get things wrong. But this is one of those ones that you hang your hat on. This is one of those sections and these stories that you definitely, you want to be part of your legacy. I can't say it's part of my legacy, but Casper can say it's part of their legacy moving forward. And it's a great addition to that legacy. I was just speaking actually in the back there with Diane Warner. We were going through the old archives of some of the books at the Neepawa Press, looking at like 1972, 1970. It's like at the times, these people who are writing, these people who are putting together the ads, were the most important people maybe in the community. No, maybe not the most important, but they were sharing the stories that were most important. We are part of a legacy of that sharing, of that commitment, of that significant historic retelling and telling of our lives that, you know, maybe we forget about from time to time. I reminisced a little bit about these people are maybe forgotten now. And that's unfortunate. And I wish that wasn't the case. Like 20 years from now, 30 years from now, my name's going to be forgotten in this town. Very much likely, you know, unless I win the lottery and give a lot of money to the town, you know, fingers crossed. But, you know, in this moment in time, that doesn't matter to me. What matters is sharing these types of stories that maybe will live on. If my name doesn't live on, at least these stories, at least these significant moments in history, because the present will become history sooner or later. So to be able to share that in one small way or another is appreciated. And it's the same thing here with NACTV. NACTV shares the history of Neepawa in one way or another. You just don't know it yet. Whether you're watching a Neepawa Titans game, whether you are watching a town council meeting, whether you are watching the story behind the stories or the lottery, what is happening now will be history later, and it hopefully is a history that's worthwhile in one way or another. And you can help us with that, hopefully, in one way or another, by contacting us. You can give us a call at 476-3401 if you have any story ideas or suggestions. It's appreciated. We try our best to get to each and every one of them. If you have a sports-related thing, you can contact me directly at sports@neepawabanner.com, and we'll try and get to it. You can check us out online at mywestmen.ca. If you're not in the area, if you are in the area, pick up a physical copy of the Neepawa Banner Press. It's always appreciated when you do. So, and I think it's important. You should educate yourself. Even if you're not interested in everything in the paper, pick it up just to learn one or two things about your community and the people in it and the work they do and the commitments they have to making Neepawa an area a better place. You know, and of course, if you want to pick up some stuff at one or two of our local advertisers that advertise in the paper, that'd be great as well. That would definitely help me out, keep me in sweater vests. Sweater vests as nice as this are expensive, so you know what? If you can keep me employed, I would love that as well. So once again, I thank everyone with NACTV for providing the time. I thank you for taking some of your valuable time and learning about and sharing with me some of these stories. I'm Eoin Devereux for the Neepawa Banner Press, and I wish you a good week, and thank you for tuning in to the story behind the stories. Bye for now.